Welcome back, YouTube. Before I start, I'll just address it. I look like Riley Freeman. I know. Now, let's focus. In the next year, I have a really aggressive goal of going from a 40-inch vertical to a 44. And a big part of that is getting a lot stronger. So in the next year, I have target numbers that I have to hit on my three probably most important lifts: my squat, clean, and deadlift. So for my squat, I need to go from 365 pounds to 400. For my deadlift, I have to go from 415 to 465. And on my clean, I need to go from 225 to 255. So this isn't close to my first year at this. And to make jumps that big, you have to acknowledge that it might not be realistic and then throw that thought away and replace it with, no, seriously, what would it take? And part of asking myself what it would take led me to getting a coach just for my cleans. I thought my squat and deadlift form were where they should be, but if you look at my clean, it's rough. But after a few weeks of form coaching, there's definitely a night and day difference. So let's look at some things that changed and a couple more things that still need to change. The best way to show this is by looking at my practice hang cleans first, since the movements are intentionally exaggerated. So the first thing I do is open up my feet, then I take a really small forward lean. That helps me keep the bar tight to my body on the way up. But if I lean back or if I'm too neutral, then the bar path tends to stray away from my body and I can't move as much weight. Next, I start to lower the weight, and since my feet are open, it makes it easier to bend my knees and hips together. I used to use just my back on this bend, and this way lets me use all the power that's in my quads too. Stop looking at my butt, then I shrug my shoulders and go to my toes, and all that's left is to just catch it. So let's look back at my old clean. So my first movement is just with my back, like I said, and I don't use anywhere near all the power from my legs. From there, I'm not explicitly going to my toes. I just go up and my shoulders come up, but it's not a coordinated shrug. Then my feet immediately go out, which isn't necessarily a problem, but in my case, I'm not putting enough power into moving the bar upward by getting to my toes and shrugging. I'm really just kind of fighting for my life. Now let's look at the power cleans, and I can show you how I took them from awful to okay to acceptable. So all the things I did wrong on my hang clean, I also did wrong on my power clean. The big thing is I'm clearly trying to push numbers here with no regard to form, and that year I had a lot of injuries from doing that. So if you try to push numbers without focusing on your form, you will eventually get hurt. And so let's look at the next clean from last week where I did that and got hurt. So when I was working on the form, it was mostly hang clean starting at my hip. So when I started from the floor, you can see my hips come up way too soon. And because I'd improved my hang clean form, I was able to move way more weight and tried to do 220 for 2 before my power clean form was ready for it. So I pulled a muscle in my back because I was using my back instead of my legs. So it wasn't a bad injury, and I felt fine a couple of days later, but it was instant feedback that I had done something wrong. So I tried again next week, and this one's much better. I used my legs to get it to my waist, and then from there, there's a smooth movement with the same points as before. Bar stays close to my body, shrug, toes, catch. And then I go back and finish on a challenging weight with no pain and no injuries. So definitely still a work in progress, but I'm on the way to that 255 number that I'm going for. Now, I left you with a few good pointers on cleans and showed you some things to do and then also some things not to do. And if it was helpful at all and you're gonna apply it to your training the next week, make sure to leave a like. And if there's a topic that you wanna see, or if you have any questions on this one, feel free to leave them in the comments. I always make sure to read all one of them.